Picture this, it's 1914, the start of World War I. In the rugged mountains of what is now Serbia, a tiny force of 240 Serbian soldiers is dug in. Their mission? To hold a critical mountain pass against an overwhelming enemy. And when I say overwhelming, I mean it. An entire Austro-Hungarian division of 11,000 men is marching right towards them. The odds aren't just bad, they're impossible. Yet, what happened next would go down in history as one of the most incredible military upsets ever. This is the story of the Battle of Cer, and how a simple map-making error led to a legendary victory. The Austro-Hungarian army was one of the most powerful in the world. They were well-equipped, well-trained, and incredibly confident. Their plan was to steamroll through Serbia in a matter of weeks. The Serbian army, on the other hand, was exhausted. They had just fought the Balkan Wars and were short on everything: rifles, ammunition, even uniforms. Many soldiers were simple farmers, called to defend their homes with whatever they had. The Austro-Hungarian commanders, led by General Oskar Podiorak, looked at their maps. They saw a mountain range, the Cer Mountains, as a minor obstacle. Their intelligence suggested the main Serbian forces were elsewhere, so they planned a swift, multi-pronged invasion. One of these prongs, the 21st Landwehr Division, was ordered to march straight over the Cer Mountains to outflank the Serbian defenders. On paper, it was a solid plan. There was just one tiny problem. Their maps were wrong. The maps the Austro-Hungarians were using were old and inaccurate. They depicted the Cer Mountains as a gentle, rolling landscape. The reality was a nightmare of steep cliffs, dense forests, and treacherous ravines. What looked like a straightforward march on the map was actually a grueling, near-impossible climb. As the 11,000 soldiers of the 21st Division began their advance, they were immediately bogged down. They were forced into narrow, single-file columns, stretching for miles. Their heavy artillery and supply wagons got stuck. Communication broke down. The powerful, organized division quickly dissolved into a confused, exhausted, and vulnerable line of men. Meanwhile, on the peak of the Cer Mountains, a small Serbian unit, the 2nd Combined Regiment, was waiting. This wasn't a crack team of commandos. It was a hodgepodge unit of about 240 men, mostly older veterans. Their commander, Colonel Milivoj Stojinoviaak, was a brilliant strategist. He knew the terrain like the back of his hand. Unlike the Austrians, his men had accurate maps and local knowledge. When his scouts reported a massive enemy force struggling up the slopes, he saw not a threat, but an opportunity. Stojinoviaak knew he couldn't win a direct fight. 240 against 11,000. That's suicide. So, he decided to fight smarter. He positioned his men at the highest point, a peak called Tekeris. From this vantage point, they could see the entire Austrian column snaking its way up the mountain. They were completely exposed. Colonel Stojinoviaak devised a simple but brutal plan: hit-and-run tactics. He split his small force into even smaller guerrilla units. Their job wasn't to defeat the enemy, but to harass, confuse, and demoralize them. As night fell on August 15th, the Serbs launched their attack. It was chaos. Small groups of Serbian soldiers would emerge from the darkness, unleash a volley of rifle fire into the tightly packed Austrian ranks, and then melt back into the woods. The Austro-Hungarians had no idea what was happening. They couldn't see their attackers. They couldn't deploy properly on the narrow mountain paths. All they knew was that death was raining down on them from the darkness above. Panic set in. Soldiers started firing wildly at shadows, sometimes hitting their own men. The disciplined division descended into a terrified mob. The psychological impact was devastating. The Austrian soldiers were exhausted from their climb, and now they were being hunted. They believed they were facing a massive Serbian army hidden in the mountains. They couldn't have imagined that the force causing all this chaos was barely the size of 2 companies. Throughout the night, Stojinoviaak's men kept up the pressure. They would strike one part of the long column, and as the Austrians scrambled to respond, another group would hit them from a different direction. It was a masterclass in guerrilla warfare. By morning, the 21st Division was in disarray. They had suffered heavy casualties, and their morale was shattered. They had barely advanced. Worse for them, the constant gunfire had alerted the main Serbian forces. Under the command of General Stepanovic, realizing what was happening, Stepanovic rushed reinforcements to the Cer Mountains. The small holding action by 240 men had bought the Serbian army precious time. When the Serbian reinforcements arrived, they found an enemy that was already half-beaten. The ensuing battle was fierce, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The demoralized and disorganized Austro-Hungarian forces were pushed back, and then back again. Over the next few days, the entire Austro-Hungarian invasion force was routed and driven out of Serbia. The Battle of Cer became the first Allied victory of World War I. It was a huge shock to the world. The mighty Austro-Hungarian Empire had been defeated by the small nation of Serbia. And it all started because of a bad map and the courage of 240 soldiers who refused to believe in impossible odds. They didn't have the numbers, the weapons, or the supplies. But they had knowledge of their land, a brilliant commander, and an unbreakable will to defend their homes. They turned the enemy's strength, their numbers, into a weakness by exploiting the terrain. The long, winding column of 11,000 men became a shooting gallery for the handful of defenders perched on the peak. The story of the Battle of Cer is more than just a military anecdote. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes, the biggest advantages aren't found in numbers or technology, but in cleverness, courage, and knowing your ground. It shows how a small group of determined people can achieve the impossible when they work together and use their brains. The legacy of those 240 men lives on, a testament to the idea that no matter how big the giant, a well-placed stone can still bring it down.